And with that, welcome to Allegheny County Conservation District's Coach to Coach training on our Envirothon competition. Thanks everyone for joining us here tonight after your long school days. We're really grateful to have you here. The plan for this evening, we're going to do a quick overview of what is Envirothon if you're brand new to Envirothon and you're not sure what it is or what it looks like. Before we jump right into introducing our coach panelists, these are all coaches who have participated in Envirothon. They have varying degrees of experience and really creative ways that they interact with and engage young people in the competition. So we'll introduce them, and we have some prepared questions for the panel, and then we're going to open it up to your questions. If you are a new coach or thinking about becoming a coach and starting a team at your school, this is a great opportunity to flush out any and all things who are questions that you might have. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with some thank yous and reminders. So I'm going to hold off on introductions until we answer that question of what is Envirothon. So Envirothon, if you have not participated in the past, is an international competition for high school students in grades 9 through 12, designed to challenge and test young people's knowledge through engagement in wildlife, aquatic, ecology, soils, forestry, and a current events station quiz as a team. Those are the 5 stations that you'll probably hear quite a bit about throughout this evening. And so what this competition looks like, schools will form teams, maybe just one team, maybe 5 teams of students. They study and prepare as a team leading up to competition day, which is typically the last Friday in April. They come to our competition day. Last year we had schools representing, was it 8 different districts, Amy? Yes, 8 different districts from around Allegheny County. Those teams compete against one another in all 5 stations, and then their scores are totaled, and the top scoring teams, the 3 top scoring teams win scholarships, and the number 1 top scoring team goes on to compete against other counties in the state competition, and then potentially even the international competition. But we will dig into all of those details a bit more here as we get our panel started. So the things, we're going to have introductions here for the ACCD staff that are joining us, myself and my colleague Amy, as well as our coaches here. If you could give us your name, your job and school district that you represent, how long you've participated in Envirothon, and what your favorite station is. I'm also going to stop sharing so we can see everyone. Let's see, Amy, do you want to kick us off with your introduction? I'll introduce myself and then we'll get to our coaches.
Sure. I'm Amy Miller. I am the Watershed Program Manager at Allegheny County Conservation District, and you'll frequently find me at the aquatic station for Envirothon.
Thanks, Amy. My name is Haley Hoke. I'm the Natural Resources Outreach Educator at Allegheny County Conservation District. And my favorite station, I have to say, is forestry. Laura, do you want to go next? Oh, Laura, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Dogs were barking, so I muted. I'm Laura Clark. I'm at North Hills High School. I teach AP Environmental Science and Biology, and I've been doing Envirothon, I think like 8 or 9 years. And my favorite stations I would probably say wildlife and aquatics.
Thanks for being here, Laura.
My name is Michael Donovan. I am the gifted support teacher for the Arlington School District. Last year was my first Envirothon, and favorite station is forestry.
Thanks for being here, Mike.
I'm Dan Geiger from TJ. I am the gifted support teacher there at the high school. I've been doing Envirothon for about 26 years. I don't have a favorite station. I think they're all interesting. That's it.
Great. Thank you everyone for being here. So coaches, we have a few questions for you. Amy and I are going to go back and forth to ask our questions. Amy, do you want to ask the first question? And maybe Mike, do you want to answer first, just since I know you'll have to hop off here for teacher conferences?
Sure.
All right, so to kick us off, as teachers who have now participated and for varying numbers of years, why do you keep coming back to have your students participate in Envirothon?
Well, for me, last year I had a group of kids who really enjoy the outdoors. Um, so they want to compete in this again. My one team came in second, I believe, and we're only like a half point away from winning the whole thing. So they want to come back and try to take it to the next level and go to, was it the middle of the state is the state competition. So that's what they want to do this year. But like I said, they're just extremely interested in the environment. I was just lucky enough to move in this position last year where the former gifted teacher had everything set up already for these kids. And so I get to take it on until I retire eventually in 30 years.
Well, we're happy to have you around as long as you're here. Dan, you want to go next?
Sure. So the question is the number of years, like I said, it's 26. I keep coming back because to me, the environment and what's going on is something that I personally enjoy. When I was in the classroom, I was a biology and environmental science teacher. So that was, made it easy to draw kids in, get them interested. Over the years, we've had some successes, we've had some failures, but it's neat to get kids involved in this. And I am finding that, as we go through the years, more and more do enjoy learning about the environment and, the opportunities that go along with environmental studies and such. So it's been a great competition through the years.
And Laura, how about you?
Yeah, so I think for me, there's a lot of students at our school that just don't know really much about the outdoors. Even if we're in environmental science and learning about issues, they don't know how to identify a tree or a bird. They don't know what's in nature around them. And so, but a lot of them are interested. They've just never had anybody to teach it to them. And so this is a good way for them to get that opportunity. I've also found that students that are often like hunters or like to hike and stuff like that tend to be more independent in school, and they're not often involved in other school activities. And this gives them a place to belong. And it's non-threatening for them because they get to work as a team of 5. And so they like that. Yeah.
Thanks everyone for sharing. Our next question, when you first learned about Envirothon and started a team at your school, what do you wish you would have known?
I'll go first on that one. So when we first started again, we didn't have a lot of understanding what the competition was. I wish I would have known how to get through the material better, or to show the kids how to get through the material better. After doing it for so long, I think we have it down to, a decent system. I think that would probably, like I said, be the biggest thing. Is I just wish I knew how to get the kids to get through that mass of material a little bit easier.
And can I ask a follow-up question, Dan? What does your system look like now? Do you have it kind of split up on a timeline? Did you create that timeline? How do you take on that immense amount of material?
So there's really no secret. I mean, we break our team into five categories. So, I let the kids pretty much pick which one they would prefer to study. I think them being interested in the materials is the biggest thing to start. But then I will do a lot of reviewing of the material, and with the experience of doing it for 26 years, again, now I know what parts to focus on more than others. But it really does come down to the kids and their willingness to go through the materials on their own. I know one of the questions later is how do you practice or prepare? So I'll save that for that question. But yeah, it really does come down to the kids and their interests and what they were willing to do.
Great, thank you. Mike, are you still available, or shall we hop on over to Laura? Laura, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so when I first started, I wish we had something like this going on, because it's kind of overwhelming. And then you go there and you see people like Dan and they like have this all figured out. And I'm like, okay, we're just going to keep at it a little bit at a time. And I think it's just important. I would tell people starting, like, it is a lot, but you'll start to wrap your head around it. And I still don't have my head wrapped around everything, but we're getting there. And it's just every year we try to do more and do better and try to come up with new study strategies. And I think you just got to go for it and do it. And again, I realized early on that trying to get the freshmen involved and get students involved for, like, 2, 3, 4 years, that's really key to helping out. And then they can help the other students. So it's a lot at first, but I think you just have to jump in and have fun with it and tackle a few things at a time. And listen to Dan, whatever Dan has to say. I'm still waiting to hear and learn more. So I feel a little bit like an imposter here.
Well, I'm going to push back on that, Laura. I think I want to highlight two things that you said, just that the idea of, one, engaging young students early on so that they have a few years in the competition, I think is a brilliant idea and a great strategy if you're just getting started. And two, Amy and I talk about it all the time, that the baseline goal for at least our county competition is that students have a positive experience, and a positive experience in association with the environmental sciences, with natural resources. So if you get bogged down in oh, we need to place this year, or we really you risk creating a negative connotation or a stressful situation. So we definitely I want to amplify that, what you said about, just go for it and make sure that your students are having fun with it and they continue to have a positive experience. Thank you. Okay. Amy, do you want to ask the next question? I do believe Mr. Donovan has jumped into a parent-teacher conference. So we're just going to continue with our two panelists.
So we talked a little bit about students. How do you guys recruit students for your Envirothon team? What do you highlight about Envirothon that gets them interested? And yeah, how do you keep students interested?
So I'm not in the classroom anymore, so it's a little bit harder for me to recruit. Luckily, I have a co-teacher that does this with me. He's the AP bio teacher. So a lot of our older kids come, from him, suggestions from him. We do try to get the kids young also. He also teaches an honors, a 9th grade honors biology. So we look through the classroom. I also keep my ears open for those, students that like to hunt, like to fish, like to be outside. A lot of those students may not be doing other types of competitions, but this is one that might pique their interest a little bit. So we look for them. As far as keeping them interested, I don't usually have a problem with that once the kids go to this competition, because it is run so well and because it is so interesting. I don't usually have kids drop out, but that's not to say it hasn't happened. I've certainly had kids go and say, "Nope, not for me," and they're 1-year deals. Yeah, we usually have no problem getting the kids and keeping them interested in the materials.
Okay, so I am in the classroom, and so I teach AP Environmental Science, and um my classes are typically small. Last year was a much larger class, but typically they're small. And so I just tell them, this is one of the things that you're doing this year. You don't have a choice. I do give them bonus for it, however, because it is extra work for them, but most of them are interested in it. And then I also teach um, ninth graders honors biology or environmental science or other classes at the same time. And so I recruit from them. And I tell them I'm always looking for freshmen. Don't be afraid because I want you here for, 4 years. And like Dan said, if they do it, they usually want to go back. I don't have a problem keeping them back. I do at the beginning of the year, we'll have students say, I want to do it. And then they just don't stick with it. So I always recruit more because I know some are going to drop off. But again, I give them bonus points. And I stress, like, if you like to hunt, if you like to fish, if you just would like to be outside more and know more, but you don't know. 1 year I had a guy that was into mushroom hunting, and herpetology, and like those kids, I'm like, you're great for this because I will pair you with my AP kids. I always try to mix my teams because my AP kids get the water chemistry in class, they get the soil chemistry in class, they get a lot of the water aquatics and forestry and stuff like that. But and then the macroinvertebrates and stuff, but they don't know how to identify a tree or, a bird call. They're not the practical kind of kids for this. So I said, we need you guys to balance this out. So we're kind of working on that, with everybody, but that's how I recruit them. And, the kids who do it love it.
Thank you both. Yeah, there again, I just want to pull out a few things. Dan, I love that you brought up, that you are not the only teacher at your school doing this. It is 100% acceptable to have a co-coach, two coaches coming from a high school. The only thing is that, right, whenever Dan registers their teams, maybe he's representing two of the teams, and then his co-coach Brian is representing the other three teams, right, on the max of 5 teachers. So don't be afraid if you have a colleague at your school who's also interested to engage them and work together. That definitely could help lessen the load. And then Laura, I love that you highlighted, the idea of giving bonus points, doing this as a class project, or young people who are in your class, if they engage in this as a project, giving them extra credit, give them bonus points. That would have been attractive to me in high school if I needed a little bump. Great. Okay, question number 4. We are rolling right along. Can you tell us a little bit about the time commitment required for a coach? We know that our teachers are, and educators, school staff are already doing an incredible amount of work and are often spread thin. So can you talk a little bit about what the time commitment to become a coach looks like? And at what point in the school year do you get started and why? Laura, do you want to kick us off?
I can do that. So I probably need to learn on this. But as far as the time commitment required for coach, I think it depends on what you put into it. I try to provide the resources for the students, direct them to the website, direct them to other resources. We meet in the mornings before school. We have during the homeroom time we have, and I try not to spend a whole lot of my time on it because I feel like the kids need to take ownership of it. So I will spend my time getting the resources, modules, skins in that I can get, direct them to the bird calls, Merlin, all that kind of stuff. I created Google Classroom. The kids can add to it. I will try to organize them as to what categories they want to focus on, and then say, hey, you guys might want to, do a Quizlet and share it, or you might want to make some other type of quiz or a bird bingo or something like that and put it on there and share with them. But I don't have a lot of time. And so I want the kids to kind of own it, but I'll say, hey, I put the skins out for you, go look at them. I put the deer skull out for you. There's the directions how to age it, go do it. Here's the forestry bin. Come in this, week, we're going to talk about forestry. I try to get kids involved early on because we sign up for activities early on in the year. And then I let them know that we're not going to get started with it much until about this time, because we have a lot of other things going on at the school. And then when we come back from Christmas break, we hit it hard, and they'll start meeting about once a week in the mornings. And bringing donuts every now and then is good.
Very nice. How about you, Dan?
Yeah, so I might answer the next two questions here with this one. So I'm a little bit more fortunate because I am not in the classroom. My schedule allows me to be a little bit more flexible. Plus, our school schedule allows us to be more flexible. We are on an 8-period day, but our 6th period, which is our lunch period, is broken into 3 30-minute sessions where the kids get to choose one lunch every day, but then they have 2 what's called PLTs, personal learning times. So during personal learning times, we can run clubs, we can run activities, we can do basically whatever we want. It's more for like career exploration and time for the kids to get help from teachers and so on and so forth. So during these PLTs is usually when I meet. I usually call the kids in by category. So I'll call all my forestry kids in and we'll do a day of forestry. And like I said, just hit the categories. As far as when I've started, I'm a paper guy. So every year what I do is I go through the materials and I take out what's old and I put in what's new. And I run that off for the kids and I give them the option whether they want the hard copies or they want to just go to the website. Most of them like the hard copies. And if you start with the kids young, I give them that packet and I tell them that's their packet for the next 4 years. So they can highlight, write down notes, whatever they want to do. They turn the packet back into me after the competition. And then next year I go through, take out the old stuff, put in the new stuff, and, just let them do that. Certainly they have to be self-motivated. Like I said, but probably once Christmas comes around, we'll start hitting it once a week with the kids. I've already started putting the packages together for them for this year. I'm just waiting for forestry to be updated because the forestry stuff is still from 2023. I as a hint or as a tip, I would definitely get them young and give them the opportunity to have ownership of that folder if they're a hard copy person, because I really do find or have found that over the years, allowing them to go back to the materials that they've already read through and highlighted and stuff really helps.
Those are great tips. Thank you, Dan. And it does get a little into our next question. So this is perfect segue. But before we hop into that, I just want to highlight, it sounds like both of you are saying that becoming a coach is entirely possible within what is your already existing school day, that you're not, adding a ton of time after school, or, having to work through your lunch period, those sorts of things. So, thank you for sharing that. It's definitely manageable to become a coach, start a team, and fit it into the structure of your school day. That's great to hear. I think both of you touched on that. How often do you meet with teams question? So we're going to skip that one. But Amy, do you wanna dig in a little bit more to F?
Yeah, so you kind of talked about the study materials. What study techniques have been successful for you, and what maybe has not been so successful for you?
So I'll start on that one. So, the study materials for all the years that I've been doing it, they've been doing a better job of focusing on what the kids are more likely going to see. I think last year was probably one of the best years. Maybe the last 2 years, wildlife has definitely taken a gigantic mass of material and broken it down and made it more specific. For instance, now there's only 12 animals or birds or whatever they have to know, whereas it used to be everyone in the state. So they've done a great job of that. I'm hoping aquatics takes a little bit off of that and does the same thing. The videos that they put out, they've been doing those in the last couple of years. I find the videos to be very helpful when it comes to identification of skulls or pelts. I know the soil's been doing a good job of getting, doing different soil testing and types of things like that. So just overall, I think all the materials that you have access to, are good materials. And as you do the competition from year to year, you'll find out which ones may not be as important as others.
I think as far as study techniques goes, once we get the students in there, I try to divide them up like so that they each pick 2 categories to know. And so you focus on forestry and wildlife, and you focus on wildlife and aquatics. So we try to divide it up that way for the students so that they can divide and conquer. And then I try to get as much hands-on stuff for them as I can. And then the bird calls, we bought one of the little bird call things. Now it's now do they just use Cornell or Merlin? I'm not sure which they use. But so we try to make sure that the kids have the same types of things that they're going to be seeing there. Get little macro invertebrates in, have them, play games or use dichotomous keys to identify them. Soil techniques, forestry techniques, and it always seems like there's always more than what we learn or study or know about. That's okay. They're learning and they're having fun, and maybe we'll figure that one out next year. But so I try to do a lot of hands-on and let the reading to them. I do like Dan's idea about the binders. I think that's really good. And then there's always somebody that is like, I'll take on the rotating topic because I just like to read and I remember everything. And so that's what that person does. So
yeah, that's a good point. That's definitely how I do my current event. I find someone who's willing to sit and read and just can absorb like a sponge.
That's a great point or a great opportunity to explain that 5th station, the current event station, is always changing to be a current event. So last year it was adapting to a changing climate, and this year it is renewable energy. And so I think, yeah, that's a great way to kind of pull in kids who maybe don't have that hunting background that you're talking about, but are still really passionate and really interested, and sounds like, might be more of the book and curious to learn students that you have. That's great. And I also love, Laura, thank you for speaking to, I've heard teachers say, we have one student who focuses on soils and like, that's their topic. And I always thought like, boy, if they didn't score well, that's an opportunity, for that person to really, for their teammates to be kind of disappointed in them. So I love that idea of having 2 people per topic so that it's still shared, still team effort, and no one person is responsible. But, the one person per station also definitely works and has worked for many teachers in the past. Great ideas. And again, Amy and I did a great job on these questions. We kind of already answered a bit of the next question, that one about what are your favorite study resources to utilize, and is everything that you use on the PA Envirothon list or found elsewhere? But if you have anything to add, Dan, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't use any other resources, with the kids specifically. I mean, they certainly can go out and look for other stuff, but I think what the Envirothon provides is ample, for the county level and even for the state level. When we've been lucky enough to go to the state level, I think what is provided on the website in the training stations is plenty.
Thanks. Laura, anything to add to that question?
No, I think you guys are very thorough on the website. So I totally agree with that. I usually have hands-on stuff that I'm getting in from Creek Connections and other things in there. I'll do a tree unit sometimes with some of my classes. So when I have that stuff out, I'm like, come on in, guys, it's laid out for you. Here it is. But yeah, generally I think you guys have things pretty well covered on the website. Yeah.
Yeah, Laura made a good reference there. Creek Connections is a good place to go to if you need stuff. We have actually gone to the Carnegie Science Center and borrowed stuff for Pennsylvania wildlife and stuff. Only problem with that is it's tough to get to, and you're very limited on what you can get from them at any one time, because obviously there's a lot of other people using it. So I think if you just stick with what's on the training stations, you'd be fine.
Yeah, that's great to hear. That there's more than enough on the websites to keep you busy in terms of study materials, but I think it's great, having some hands-on opportunities might be useful in keeping young people interested. We're definitely working on building some partnerships here in the next year. And so with Creek Connections, with Carnegie Museums, Natural History, with Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy has quite a few models. Western PA Audubon Society, those are all places that, as educators, feel free to reach out to and ask if they have resources you could borrow or visit, if you want to take a field trip. But we're also Amy and I are working on building those partnerships so that you could reach out to ACCD and say, hey, what do you have available? And we could kind of have a resources library ready to hand off or make that connection for you. So thank you for highlighting. Amy, do you want to where are we? Letter H.
Yeah. So as you guys have worked through your years at Envirothon, what challenges have you encountered and learned from through doing Envirothon or in doing Envirothon?
I'll start with that. I feel like it's hard sometimes to recruit students. So I've been the environmental club sponsor now for about 4 or 5 years. So that has been helpful. But before that time, I'm usually just trying to grab students for my classes. And like I said, I make my AP kids do it because they already know a lot and they could learn a little bit more practical information. But it can be hard sometimes just getting students to want to do it. And so I also learned that always have backups. So that if someone backs out at the last minute because they don't want to do it, or they just haven't been coming and being a part of a team or, studying anything, I've got other students that want to do it. And so I don't want it just to be a free day off of school. Because a lot of these kids will come and study and do something and learn something. So bonus points helps, but it doesn't make them do it, which is good. I don't want that to be the reason they're doing it. It just makes the work they're doing feel better for them because they get something out of it. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just being able to recruit students, because like those kids that do hunt and fish, sometimes they just don't want to. I don't want to do that. I have to study. I don't want to do that, and I'm like, no, you just, stuff. And those have been some of our best years. But once they go, they love it and they do it all the time. And then they keep wanting to do it. So I just say, go for it. Just get them involved anyhow, somehow, and they'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah, so back in the day, that was probably it. It was getting kids motivated to do it because it was extra studying on their time. Getting them to take it serious. Honestly, we haven't had that problem as of late. We know what kids to look for now and what characteristics in a kid to look for. So I really haven't had that problem. Our probably more recent challenges, other than last year, we were lucky enough to go to states last year, but it's been expenses through the school. Transportation sometimes becomes an issue, especially if you're going to states and stuff. We've always been supported, but it seems to be, having to drag it out of the district. Now, last year, I believe it was the county covered expenses for us, which was extremely nice and surprising. And it made it a lot easier for the district to say, yeah, absolutely, go ahead and go represent. But that's probably been the only really challenges that we've faced. And if the county can continue to do that support for the teams that go to state, I don't think there's going to be any issues at all.
Well, I'm really glad to hear, Dan, that relieved an ongoing challenge for you. So Allegheny County Conservation District last year was able to assist with the registration fee to go to state competition for Dan's team, as well as provide a travel stipend to help, since it is a bit of a distance away, needing to stay in a hotel and vehicle to get there. That's something we hope to continue to do, but I'll use this opportunity to say all of that, as well as the scholarships we provide to our county winners, are dependent on fundraising, which we're going to launch here in just a few weeks. Fundraising and finding sponsorships is a huge part of what makes this competition happen. And having educators in particularly amplify that message and share it with your networks on social media goes a long way. So thanks for the opportunity for that little plug there, Dan. That was great. Our last set question of the evening is for those who are listening in tonight and those who will watch the webinar recorded later. What is one reason why those watching should participate in Envirothon as a coach?
I'm just gonna say it's fun. I mean, it's a competition where, unless the weather's bad, you're outside. You have a bunch of kids who are interested and excited for the challenges. It is probably, as a gifted teacher who does multiple competitions, it is by far one of the best run. And again, I think it's one of the most rewarding ones that my kids have the opportunity to do, and that's why we've been doing it for 26 years.
Yeah, it's fun, and the kids really like it. They really like being a part of a team doing that. And again, there just really isn't anything else like it available to students, right? They have sports, they have band, they have drama, they have chess club, they have all these other things. And this is just something for a different group of students to be able to go out and learn more about the world around them. You're like, the first time, they hear a mourning dove, like, oh, that's not an owl. I thought I had owls around my house. I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, I went home, I told my parents, or it's just a lot of fun for them to feel like they're really connecting to the world around them. And now when they go on a hike, they know what that tree is, or they know that plant shouldn't be there. So it's a lot of fun. I think it kind of empowers them a little bit. So it's good.
Thank you both for sharing. That's wonderful. At this point, we have 15 minutes left, so plenty of time. Want to open it up to our attendees to see if anyone has additional questions to ask, things that you thought of during this webinar, or burning questions you've had leading up to the webinar. This is your opportunity to ask, some of our incredible coaches what their secrets are. So please, any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or drop a question in the chat.
Let me just say, I don't have any secrets. It's not secret. Like whatever I can share, whatever we can do. Yep.
Thanks, Laura.
I have secrets. I'm not giving them all away.
Come on, Dan.
I have a question that came up during this that I didn't think of before. Have either of you had students that went on to pursue, you know, conservation or environmental related careers or, you know, degrees because of their involvement in Envirothon?
Yeah, I've had several. I've had several go from the competition and actually tell me that the competition was one of the reasons they chose what they chose, for sure.
Oh, that's so cool. How about you, Laura?
Yeah, well, so I kind of have a biased group with my AP environmental science students. A lot of them do, not all of them go on to study environmental issues, but a lot of them do. And a lot of them, it's opened their eyes up to just how much is out there. You know, it's just not animals and birds or animals and plants. There's soil and there's forestry and there's invasives and there's aquatics and there's the chemistry part of it and then there's the macro part of it. It's like, so yeah, I think they realize that there's a lot to chew on there and look forward to that when they are looking for careers. But yeah, a lot of the students do, and I'm sure it's changed the minds of some of them, just like the classes have. But yeah, so they like it.
That's fantastic to hear. And something that I think Amy and I want to lean into a bit more is how can we, you know, really highlight that pathway to a career in conservation. You know, both careers that don't require additional, you know, higher ed or and careers that that do after getting more schools. So that's something, a goal that we have is to really build in opportunities for students to connect with professionals in conservation, even just, you know, beyond the conservation district itself. So if you have ideas about how to do that, let me know. That's definitely something we're committed to here in the next few years. Any other questions? Amy, did you have any other questions?
Wanted to kind of give a plug to, if you have younger students, that Dan does run a junior Envirothon. So I don't know if you want to mention that at all, Dan. You want to talk about that at all?
Sure. Yeah, so real quick, several years ago, the high school level competition had dropped. The numbers of participating teams had dropped very low. We were down to 7 at one point, 7 teams. But anyway, long story short, what I did was I created and run a junior Envirothon that basically mimics what we would see at the high school. So I have 2 divisions. There's a 4th and 5th grade division and a 6th through 8th grade division. They use the same study materials. I create the tests, whereas usually I think it's the county or the organization creating the tests, but I create the tests for these ones. And I also take the materials and I water them down. So I tell the participating teams exactly what packet they should be studying. And even I'll go down to the page, what pages they should know. And the idea behind this was to obviously get the kids interested in the competition so that hopefully they will participate when they get at the high school level. So right now, we run it at South Park. The county has been nice enough to give us the lodge, which is behind the old track, as our testing place. It's going to be right now. I have either May 3rd, 10th, or 17th. Those are the 3 dates I've thrown out to teachers that have done it in the past and that might be doing it or might be interested now. So if you are interested, anybody that's out there, you can shoot me an email and just say that you'd like the information. I am sending out right now an interest form to see, you know, how many schools we might get or how many teams we might get. But my email is dgeiger, Giger. So it's like tiger with a G, at wjhsd.net. So it's West Jefferson Hills School District.net. But if anybody's interested in hearing more about the junior Envirothon, I will certainly respond.
And that's,
Perfect. Oh,
I
I was
dropped
just,
sorry, Amy, go ahead.
nope, I was just gonna say, we can always put you in contact with Dan as well, if you want to reach out to the district.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's such a great, brilliant idea for creating kind of that pathway and flowing, elementary, middle school students into Envirothon. It might be a great way, again, a recruitment tool to ask in your classes in the beginning of the year, did anyone, when they were in elementary school or middle school, participate in junior Envirothon? Any hands go up, that's your who to start with.
Yeah, and we probably, I mean, folks that are on are probably high school level. So if they can pass my contact information on down lower, to the middle schools and the elementary schools for anyone that might be interested.
And so Dan, you run the two groups, the 4th and 5th graders and the 6th through 8 on the same day.
So they take the exact same test,
Okay.
but they compete, like, so the 4th and 5th graders all compete against each other. So their scores are matched
Okay.
against each other, as are the
Okay.
6th through 8th. Yeah. Same test, same questions. I try to do a lot of hands-on stuff to, again, I think the hands-on gets them a little bit more involved. So there's a lot of identification. We do the bird calls, we do the frog calls, just like you would see at the high school level. But again, they have a little better idea of what they might see.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, I think since we have a little less than 10 minutes left, I'm going to go over kind of our wrap-up items. If you do have a question, please feel free to drop it in the chat. We will make time for it, or we can always follow up with you individually. But I'm going to get back to sharing my screen here. So we've been talking about Envirothon this entire time. Oops. Put it down in your date books in your calendars that this year's 2024 Envirothon will be on April 26th. That is a Friday. And our location is to be determined. Like Junior Envirothon, we often have Envirothon at one of the county parks. Last year we had it at Boyce Park, but we are growing, which is a wonderful challenge to have. So we're exploring what other venue options might look like. Stay tuned for the location for 2024. And we are also super excited to say that 2024 registration is actually already open on the Allegheny County website. Our registration deadline for 2024 is a bit earlier this year. It's going to be March 15th to allow us time to get everything in order for your teams for competition day. What you're going to need at the time of registration is also a bit different this year. So just like in the past, you need your school information, coach or coaches information if multiple coaches are representing the school, names for all of your teams. If you don't add a team name, we're going to name you, North Hills 1, North Hills 2. And the team names are often what, students get excited about. So think about that early on. You'll need the participant names, student names for each team. You'll need their t-shirt sizes, if they have any dietary restrictions or preferences. And at the time of registration is when you need to have a completed and signed release form for every student. That is new this year. That release form is available on our website, and I think I'm gonna show everyone how to get there, just so there are no questions, since we have a little extra time. So in order to find registration and those release forms, you just go to Allegheny County Conservation District's website. This is our home page. Up here at the top, you'll hover over the Learn tab and scroll down to Envirothon. This brings you to our Envirothon information page. So this is the introduction. Over here on the left, you'll click Register for Envirothon, and you'll scroll all the way down. Here's this year's information, some tips and tricks, some resources, and down here at the bottom where it says Register for the event is where the registration begins. This is the online registration form embedded onto our website. So before you're ready to register, make sure you visit this page and This is the release form that you need to have for all participants. Download and save this release form. And I don't know if it'll let me do it. There we go, right? So you'll save that as a PDF, print out as many copies as you need for your, however many students are on your teams. There is a front and back, so make sure you complete front and back of that for every student. And this is just some more detailed instructions. You'll then, once you have that finished and you're ready to register, here, we'll go back actually, so everyone can see what that looks like. You'll start registration by clicking next, and here's where registration begins. So you'll fill out your coach's information. The next page is going to be, let's actually go through again, since we have a few minutes here, what this looks like. Oop, we're going to click no. And then this is what the student and team registration looks like, right? So you can register the team name, student's name, all their preferences. And Dan requested that we add a question here to see if any of these students participated in Junior Envirothon. So that change will be coming here within the next week. We'll see if it lets me. Nope, here we go. Try that. And then this last page is where you upload all of those PDFs that are signed and completed for each of your participants. We need to have those release forms at the beginning this year before registration is complete. That is new. Moving on then, just want to share, Laura and Dan gave some really great tips about where to find resources. As they both mentioned, the PA Envirothon website is going to be your go-to for finding study materials and teacher resources. So that link is here, envirothonpa.org. This is what that home screen looks like. And all of your study materials are going to be under this station training tab. So these are the stations, right? We have aquatic ecology, forestry, soils, wildlife, and current issues are the 5 stations for the county competition. No need to worry about oral component unless you win first place at county competition and you go on to the state competition. So for now, just ignore that. But these 5 stations, right? If you click on one, you'll get a whole page devoted just to that topic. And these are the drop downs, right? So these are objectives for the station. Here's all of the reference materials list. So these are the links of materials to study, right? So we could click here and this will take us to an entire new document that should be a part of your study routine. So like Laura and Dan said, there is an immense amount of information. Under learning enhancements is often where there might be videos or additional resources that you can utilize, like this one. So definitely enough to keep your teams busy. In addition to that, to the stations tab, there is, let's see, there is a teacher's resource. Whoops. If you hover over stations and go all the way down to teacher's resource, this is a PDF created by PA Envirothon, not the county, but it does just have, some tips and tricks and, some FAQs to help you out as you get started. And then the last thing that I'll highlight as a resource that I was told is coming soon is a PA Envirothon app that your students can download on their phones. And it has, all of the study materials there so they can take, they can be studying at home on the weekends if they are that passionate. And I do believe it also has quizzes for practice quizzes. Dan or Laura, have either of you had students that use the Envirothon app?
Yeah,
So
I thought they used it last year.
That's great. Yes, I do. So I do know that it was piloted last year. I think they're updating it. for this year after they got some feedback. So that's good to know that it was useful last year.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was a little limited, but it certainly had, you know, some relevant information on it. If they're updating, that's even better.
That's what I was told. So fingers crossed. We'll check in with you both after this year to see if any improvements were made or if it is useful in your studying. Just some last items here. As I mentioned before with my little plug, those, you know, the scholarships that we're able to offer winning teams, the top 3 winning teams, as well as that travel stipend for the first place team to go to the state competition is entirely dependent on our fundraising efforts. So something that you can do to help with this is to follow us on social media. That's where a lot of that fundraising campaign will go. So having that be shared out goes a very long way. And then just some important dates to keep in mind. So we are already moving well along our timeline here. Our next important date, as I mentioned, is when our fundraising campaign will launch here. And then after that, you know, it's kind of up to you to begin organizing your teams in time for that March 15th registration deadline. All of the dates then in green have to do with the state and international competition for that first place team. So if you only remember 2 dates tonight, remember March 15th is your registration deadline and April 26th is the Allegheny County Envirothon competition. And with that, here's my contact information. I'm also happy to drop this in the chat if you had questions for this evening, but I do believe that is everything. Have I not been sharing my screen? We're good. Okay.
Good.
Just making sure. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Hope you had a wonderful evening, and we are finished. So have a great night, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Take care.